I'm going to review how the single line reefing system is set up on our Pearson 31-2. Our halyards and reefing lines come back to a sheet stopper. This is the main sheet, which of course is in use. And coming through the sheet stopper, in addition to the main sheet, is reef line number 1, which is the line with the red tracer. The main halyard, which is the white line with the black tracer, and then reef number 2, which is the white line with the green tracer. And so we have reef 1, main sheet, main halyard, and reef 2. Now, going forward, we can take a look at how the reefing lines are run up through the mast. We can't take a look at reefing line 1 because it's actually in use, as you can see, but we'll follow through where reefing line 2 goes. This is reefing line 2. It comes through the deck organizer, the turning block at the base of the mast. It comes up and goes in the bottom of the boom. It turns and runs towards the back. Somewhere in the middle of the boom are a pair of blocks, which are end-to-end. So the reefing line goes around the first block, it comes back forward, comes around, comes out the top of the boom, goes up the mast to the reefing tack, goes through the tack, right back to the same side of the mast, comes down the same side of the mast to a stopper on the mast. Then inside the mast, I'll take a look on the other side, it'll be easier to see. The reefing line comes to a double block here somewhere inside the boom. On the back end of the double block, there's a line that's tied from the back of the boom. It comes forward to the double block, it goes back to the end of the boom. It comes through the cap at the end of the boom. It runs up to the reefing clew, comes down, goes around under the sail, around the boom, and secures to itself. As you can see, the red line in the back, reef number 1, is set. And up front, if you can come up, you can see that the tack is pulled right down to the gooseneck. And the reason that I run the line through the grommet and back onto the same side is that if you run it that way, the loose cloth that falls down on the luff when the reef is being set tends to fall to the other side, ends up like this, so it doesn't inhibit being able to bring the tack right down to the boom. That's it. Okay, I want to take a look what's involved in putting a reef in using a single line reefing system. We already have reef 1 in, so we'll just do reef 2. First, of course, you release the main sheet. Some boats you may have to release the boom bang. In our particular boat, the way the boom bang's set up, it doesn't need to be released. This is our reefing line number 2, the red line. Before we trim that, we need to drop the main. I have the reef points marked on the halyard, so you drop the main till you come to the black mark. You set the halyard, you take the reefing line, and now you're going to trim this reefing line in. And you just hand over hand it. There's a lot of line. When it starts to get heavy, that's usually a sign that the front of the sail is coming down, in which case you can start to use the winch. When the winch starts to get heavy, you take a look, see how you're done. the back end looks good, the front end looks good, the reef is done. You take the reefing line off the, set the stopper. I'm going to bring that reefing line back. Looks good. Free up the reefing line, and you're back, you're in business. Trim the sheet.
Still going 5.5.
And if you take a look at the main, you can see that we've gone down to reef number 2 without having to leave the comfort of the cockpit.
If you're thinking about reefing, it's likely because the wind has kicked up and your boat is going to be heeled over, which means it will be unsafe for you to walk up and stand at the mast to put in a reef. Keep in mind also that if your mainsail is fully powered up, you actually won't be able to dump the power out of that powered up main. So, one of the options you can employ is heaving to, which is being demonstrated here on this J24. Heaving to is safe and simple and can be performed by just one sailor. In order to heave to, steer as if you were going to go through a normal tack. Take your boat through irons and then release your main sheet, but leave your jib sheet sheeted in. Allow it to backwind. Once you're through your tack, let your main sheet luff entirely and shove your tiller to the new leeward side, securing it with a couple of hitches. Now you're heaved to. When it comes to reefing, there are several different configurations on a variety of different sailboats. So before you go to reef your sail, make sure that you and your crew both know where all of your lines and parts are located on your specific boat. You'll want to look for these things in particular. Look for the metal hooks mounted near the gooseneck, where your boom and your mast meet. These will be important. Also look for your luff kringle, which is a heavily reinforced metal ring on the luff of your mainsail about 3 feet up. At the opposite end of your mainsail, the leech, you'll find a similar looking kringle at a similar height. Going through that kringle will be your reef line. This is a line that will be led from the outboard end of the boom up through your leech kringle on the other side of the mainsail, and then through a block and all the way up through the boom to a cleat at the front of the boom or on the mast, or even led back into your cockpit, depending on your configuration. Once you're confident with the location of all of these things, you're ready to reef. To reef, begin by releasing your boom vang and also releasing your main sheet so that the boom is completely free to run as need be. Then go all the way up to your mast and release your main halyard, bringing down the luff of the sail until that luff kringle meets the metal hook at the tack of the sail, where the boom meets the mast. Secure the kringle around the tack, and then take back in on that halyard until the luff of your sail is once again taut. Take in on the halyard completely and cleat it down. Now you'll need the leech end to match the luff end. So go back up to the mast and pull in on your reefing line until that leech kringle comes all the way down to the boom. You'll see here why it was a good idea to let our boom vang and our main sheet run free, because that boom is going to raise up a little to accommodate the new sail shape with this reduced mainsail. Cleat your reefing line, put a little tension back onto your boom vang, and return to the cockpit with your slightly shortened sail, ready to sail off. If later in the day the breeze goes down again and you feel like you can take the reef out, then you can easily shake out the reef. Begin by releasing your main sheet, making sure your main is ready to run free, and also release your boom vang. Then walk up to the mast and release your reefing line. Take it out of the cleat and let that leech run free, breaking away from the boom and flying its full length once again. Then you want to release the main halyard just enough that you can get that kringle off of the hook. And then once again, bring your main halyard all the way up, back to the top of the mast, and completely cleat it back in. Put a little bit of tension back on that boom vang, and then return to the cockpit and get ready to sail. Now remember that we're heave to here. So before he can sail away, he's going to need to release that windward backwinded jib sheet, which in this case is on the port side. So we see him release it there, and then take in on the leeward side or the starboard side and sail off.
Reefing allows you to reduce the sail area of your boat. This will allow you to keep in control on windy days. It's best to reef ashore, and if in doubt, put a reef in. You'll have a number of reefing points that allow increasing amounts of reefing to be applied to the sail. In this example, we're starting with the mainsail fully rigged and hoisted. First, release the reefing line from the boom and pull all the slack through. Thread the end of this line through the first reefing point behind the mast, and on the other side of the sail return the line to the boom, but keeping inside the kicking strap. Tie the end of this line to the boom with a bowline. Next, go to the end of the boom and pull the remainder of the reefing line out like this. Return to the mast and release the main halyard to lower the mainsail. Then return to the end of the boom and thread the reefing line through the eyelet of the clew of the sail like this. And return the line to the boom and clip it in place. Return to the mast and pull the reefing line tight. This pulls the clew down to the boom and tensions the front of the sail. You may need to adjust the halyard slightly to ensure that the reefing point ends up tight to the boom. Tidy up the slack on the reefing line to stop it getting tangled. And finally, tie the sail to the boom using a reef knot. repeating as necessary. Repeat the process to subsequent reefing points if it's particularly windy. You can reef the sail when the boat is tied to a pontoon, and you should familiarise yourself with the whole process so that you can reef afloat should the need arise. Let's look at another example. The reefing line is released from the boom and threaded through the first reefing point in the sail behind the mast, and then led back to the boom and tied with a bowline. The main halyard is then released to lower the sail. The outhaul end of the reefing line is then threaded through the clew of the sail and led back to the end of the boom and clipped in place. The reefing line is then pulled tight to tension the sail, with the main halyard being adjusted so the first reefing point ends up by the boom. Continue to pull the reefing line to make sure there's no slack. For single-handed boats that don't have wire rigging to support the mast, reefing is simple. Disconnect the outhaul from the clew end of the sail and simply wrap the sail completely around the mast. You can do this several times if necessary. Finally, reconnect the outhaul back to the boom. Whichever reefing procedure you've used, to take the reef out, you should reverse the process. To lower the sails, release the halyards and gently pull down. To pack the sails away, it's best to roll them from the head of the sail. For the mainsail, 2 people make this easier. For the jib, roll the sail up using the wire. Starting at the head, continue winding around until you reach the end. Then finally slide the sails into the sail bag to store them away. If you take all the battens out of the sail after use, you can fold the sail like this. With a friend, fold the sail working towards the head. And then finally, roll the folded sail up. Being completely familiar with the rigging and reefing process is an important part of sailing. In time, you'll get quicker at the whole process. Search the channel for the next section of this video. And if you found this video interesting, please don't forget to like us, as this will allow us to make more. And subscribe to the channel to receive automatic notifications when we add more videos. Check out the rest of the channel for other topics, or visit sailorboat.tv, where you can buy the full-length versions or the DVDs and the book to accompany the videos.